I'm here today to talk about a collaborative project on both exhibits and programming that's happening here in the Warner area. It's called Over There, Over Here, World War I and Life in New Hampshire Communities. It involves several historical societies, the Hopkinton, Webster, Warner, and Bradford societies, and then the New Hampshire Telephone Museum, the Little Nature Museum, the Mount Kearsarge Indian Museum, the Aviation Museum located in Manchester. And we are embarked on a year-long project starting last November and will end on Veterans Day, November this fall, doing programming and exhibits that relate not only to the war, but also to what was happening here on the home front, such as suffrage, prohibition, temperance, the economy, the selling of war bonds, the involvement of women in the war. People, when they think of Rosie the Riveter, they think of World War II. When they think of Victory Gardens, they think of World War II. But this was all happening in World War I. There were women that went off to work in the factories for the men who were serving, and there were also women and older people in town that were very involved in planting gardens and growing food. People had to conserve. Coal wasn't available for everybody, so they had to burn wood. They were asked not to bake with wheat flour, to use cornmeal, to use maple syrup, to use honey instead of sugar, so that all of these supplies could go over to support the war effort. So for instance, we just had a program on World War I posters. We will be having upcoming, I'm going to be talking in May, at the end of May on the 19th, about Everybody Must Give Their Might, and it's looking at soldiers, sailors, and nurses in the area that served. We'll be having Richard Rubin from Maine, who is an author who interviewed several World War I veterans when they were in their 90s and in their hundreds. There are no longer any left. And he has written a book called Last of the Doughboys that examines their role in the war and what was happening on the front. World War I's a very, I found, confusing at first war to understand, how we got into it, the development of trench warfare. We talk also about the chemical weapons that were used during the war and how both sides actually used chemical weapons. The front was stretched over a long, miles and miles and miles of trenches. And for the first 3 years of the war, there was not much gained on either side. And it's famous for, on Christmas Eve, 1914, everything stopped. And the men actually got out of their trenches and shared stories, shared food, Christmas gifts, drink, etc. So it's a very interesting war to study, and we hope that you will go to our website, overhere.com, where it will list all the events that we have coming up. And we hope to see you there.